on its territory since it signed the court's treaty. The Rome Statute and incorporated it into domestic law. And the court ruling in South Africa and at the ICC Appeals Chamber have reached the same conclusion. So which way for South Africa on this particular note that we know Vladimir Putin is a wanted man? And I also will be giving you details regarding the prosecutor of ICC, also who has been listed by Russia as a wanted person.
It's a long time since the president of Panama, Noriega, was surrounded by American troops in...
I'm sorry, but can I just begin with Dr. Mustafa?
Let me finish and then we'll go to him. It's already done.
So now you'll forfeit your chance as well.
Yeah, so it is a long time since Noriega was surrounded by American troops in Panama. And the culture of that cannot be applied to Mr. Putin, who sits on about 1,000 intercontinental ballistic nuclear weapons. He's got the third, fourth, fifth largest army in the world. The unilateralism today in international relations is appalling. I think that the South African government has invited another sovereign government to come and visit its country. And I think that anybody who wants an issue about the issue of Ukraine should bring it up into the Security Council and say, this is what's happening. But to police the South African government, as the US ambassador did the other day, and to discipline that state to such a level of, I would use the word disgust. You don't use that word in diplomacy, but I would use that word because it is just unforgivable, the kind of unilateralism that is going on. Second, we have to hold two different ideas in our head. One is that the illegal occupation of the Ukraine and the Russian war against Ukraine is illegal. It is absolutely against international law. And then on the other hand, hold a completely different idea and say the political, social, cultural, and economic and military conditions that were prepared to be placed in front of Mr. Putin for him to react in a certain manner and to act in a certain manner. And how do we reconcile these two systems of ideas and actions in international relations today? That is how we have to think. And I think to reconcile these two things is to say that there has to be an end of the war in Ukraine, and it has to be immediate. And there has to be a withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukrainian territory. And then there has to be a systematic negotiation on what the future holds for Ukraine and Russia. Now, for the American government to tell Africa, Asia, or everybody else that you cannot, that your enemy is our enemy, or our enemy is your enemy, and your friends are our friends, is not a way to deal with the rest of the world or the global south. We oppose in every way this new form of imperial thinking. And we know the dangers that are there prevalent today. My senior learned teacher tells us that the tanks and the battalions and the armies are all over the NATO countries surrounding Ukraine and Russia. Not only is that true, there's a paper that was leaked in which showed American officials, senior commanders, were on the front. The French are on the front. The Germans are on the front. The whole European NATO are on the front conducting the war against the Russians. We are leading ourselves into a hole in which there is going to be conventional nuclear weapons being used.
Well, that's in the broader perspective. But now looking at the ICC issue with South Africa, where the question is, what should South Africa do? Because we have legal rights groups who are planning court action to force South Africa to execute their arrest warrant. We had the same scenario here where Bashir also was coming for the promulgation of the constitution, and still there was an arrest warrant that was issued by the ICC. Kenya also was torn in between.
The ICC is a double standard institution.
That's what I'm saying.
The Al Jazeera reporter who was shot by Israeli troops in occupied Palestine was not taken to the International Criminal Court. That fellow there called Mr. Netanyahu, who has been bombing Gaza the whole of last week, has not been cited by the International Criminal Court. What is the double standard in which putting black men into the docks in the ICC, while all the other European powers are committing this kind of criminals?
Because the question I'm asking is, we've seen this ICC debacle happening in South Africa. The president, giving a statement that, yeah, we're pulling out from the ICC treaty. That's Rome Statute. Then again, we have changed our mind. Here we are. Legal groups now, they're coming to the fore. They're saying, let's move on full steam ahead to make sure that this is implemented because you signed to this Rome Statute. So should we be pulling away from ICC? We ourselves,
we
as the countries who have ratified ICC Rome Statute?
Yeah, Dibal, the first point I would like to make here is that ICC is a good idea. The creation of that court was a very good idea. And that court, if I recall, was created because there were leaders that were taking advantage of their position and were cannibalizing, killing their own people. And that there needed to be a court to account to where, leaders are accountable to. And to that extent, ICC was an excellent idea. And I think ICC should still be, it just needs to do certain things in order for it to honor its existence. The problem here is that ICC has been politicized. Number two is that ICC has actually been seen as a court to persecute Africans and African leaders. And we actually see this clearly. Number three, Dibal, is that there are criminals who are heads of states today that are not in Africa, and ICC will never touch them. So why this duality, these double standards that Hashi is talking about? And this is why, ICC cannot stand the test of its own creation if it's going to say such a person should be arrested and thrown into, or rather handed to ICC, and another head of state is not. And there are many of these. And it's for this reason that I think we have to take a few steps back and discuss the creation of ICC. If all states, including the powerful states, are not going to be members of ICC, then there is no need to have ICC. If states can just say that you cannot arrest a senior person from their country because they are not members of ICC, yet they have overseen horrendous human rights abuses and killings, then there is no need to have ICC.
So collectively, ICC should be an umbrella
should be an umbrella, yeah.
Global states and that we have.
It should not be selective. In this case, I think ICC is selective. And having said this, Russia, committed flagrant violation of international law, invaded a country, undermined its sovereignty. It should not have done that. It should withdraw its forces from Ukraine. And the last point I want to make here, Dibali, is Professor Gagonyo spoke earlier of Third World War. We being on the Third World. Europe has to also do some introspection. The First World War was started in Europe. In Sarajevo, in 1914, August of 1914, when the Archduke Ferdinand was killed at a bridge in Sarajevo. The Second World War started in Europe when Hitler invaded Poland in 1939. The Third World War seemed to have started in Ukraine with the invasion of Russia. And so all these are wars that killed, millions upon millions of people. And Europe has to do some introspection about why is it that major wars seems to be starting in Europe.
Good question. Okay.
Are you going to Kagwanja?
Kagwanja,
yes.
Then you. Kagwanja too.
No, it has become
it's
good sometimes to listen. I think I don't find it worthwhile to discuss the African Union. I see, Dibal, you really want to insist on this and this.
The African Union or the ICC?
No, ICC. Sorry. The International Criminal Court. And why do I say so? Because from its foundations, we, people of the South, are the ones who founded it.
Correct.
And we founded it because we thought that it is going to be binding to everyone. We wanted it to be binding to us in terms of our criminals, who are causing genocide and others. But we also thought it is going to deal with issues of Israel, Palestine. It was going to deal with issues of Eastern Europe. Remember that time Eastern Europe was in war. From the former Yugoslavia was at war, and so on. But then all of a sudden we found America literally pointed the gun at everyone to exempt it from Article 98 of the Rome Statutes. And finally, when that could not happen, America did not join the ICC. India did not join, China did not sign, Russia did not sign, and therefore it became a third world court. Or rather, a court that only deals with the third world and the weaker countries of the world. And therefore, it's not, to me, an international criminal court. It is a court that deals with the subjects and does not deal with the citizens. The citizens of the world are the big powers. We are simply the wretched of the earth. Inhabitants. We are wananchi na waranchi. Wenye nchi. Sasa wenye nchi are not in ICC. Now that said, I think we need to have a better reflection on what is happening in Eastern Europe now, and this is generally Europe. From the look of it, and if you listen to the news other than the mainstream news, which have become part and parcel of this war, you can declare openly that we are in a third world war, but that world war at a low intensity level. Now, if you listen to the speech that was made by the German foreign minister in the European Union, she said as much. The Chancellor of Germany. Germany is actually leading this onslaught. Leopard's tanks are already there, rolling in. The Americans, the Abrahams are there, and the technology is so sophisticated.